The shotgun blast echoed through the crisp autumn air of Willow Creek, Ohio, shattering the fragile peace of the old Harper farmhouse like a thunderclap from a clear sky. Christian Harper froze mid-step on the gravel driveway, his heart slamming against his ribs as the acrid smell of gunpowder stung his nostrils, carried on the wind from the back fields where his uncle was hunting. But it wasn't deer season, and deep down, in the pit of his stomach, he knew it was a message, a warning shot aimed not at wildlife, but at him. Faggot. His mother's voice had hissed earlier that morning over breakfast, her eyes cold as the steel of that very gun. You're tearing this family apart with your choices. Your father would roll in his grave. Those words had sliced deeper than any bullet could, reopening wounds that had barely scabbed over since Dad's funeral 6 months ago. Now, as Christian dropped his duffel bag and bolted toward the sound, the world blurred into a nightmare of regret and rage, because if that shot had found its mark, it wouldn't be birds scattering. It'd be the last thread of his unraveling life snapping clean. He burst through the rusted chain-link gate into the corn-stubbled field, his boots kicking up dirt clods that stuck like accusations. Uncle Ray, what the hell? The words died in his throat as he spotted the old man, shotgun slung over his shoulder, smirking like he'd just bagged a trophy buck. But there was no kill, just Ray, broad-shouldered and weathered from decades of factory shifts at the GM plant in Dayton, turning with that predatory glint in his eye. Just scaring off the crows. Boy, Ray drawled, his voice thick with the drawl of forgotten steel towns. Though maybe I oughta aim higher next time. Keep the real pests away. Christian's fists clenched, nails biting into palms already scarred from years of biting back truths. At 24, he was no kid anymore, tall, lean from hauling hay bales and dodging family barbs, but the weight of their hatred pinned him like gravity. His sister Lila's wedding was tomorrow, the whole Harper clan descending on the farm for a celebration of normalcy. And here he was, the black sheep, fresh from a semester at Ohio State where he'd finally mustered the courage to kiss a boy under the stadium lights. Roger. God, just thinking his name sent a forbidden spark through the chill. Ray stepped closer, the barrel glinting in the fading light. You think running off to that college cesspool makes you one of them city queers? This is God's country, Christian. Real men don't prance around with their kind. The words landed like punches, each one echoing the sermons from Pastor Hale's fire and brimstone revivals, the sideways glances at family reunions, the way Mom had burned his favorite flannel shirt after finding a crumpled note from his high school crush. Christian wanted to scream, to grab that gun and fire it into the sky until the stars fell. But all he could do was stand there, chest heaving, tasting blood from where he'd chewed his lip raw. I'm not running anymore, he whispered, voice cracking like dry earth. I'm gay, Uncle Ray. Deal with it. Ray's laugh was a bark, ugly and final. Deal with it? Boy, your daddy didn't raise no sissy. He'd disown you himself if he wasn't 6 feet under. And with that, he shouldered the gun and trudged back toward the house, leaving Christian alone in the field, the sun dipping low like a judgment. By the time Christian made it back inside, the farmhouse kitchen was a whirlwind of pre-wedding chaos. Lila barking orders at cousins peeling potatoes, Mom slamming pots on the stove with the precision of a guillotine. The air smelled of simmering chili and resentment, the kind that had simmered since Dad's heart attack, since the whispers started about Christian's softness. He slipped in through the back door, hoping to grab his keys and bolt to the motel in town. But Lila spotted him first. There you are. Where've you been? We need help setting up the tent out back. Her voice was all Southern Belle sweetness laced with steel. 22. Engaged to a football coach from the local high school, the golden child who never questioned the script. Christian forced a smile, the one he'd perfected in mirrors, all teeth and no soul. Just needed some air. Sis. Uncle Ray's in a mood. She rolled her eyes, waving a potato peeler like a scepter. Always is. But tomorrow's my day, Chris. Can you just play nice? For me, for her. He'd swallow glass. For the family that had raised him on cornfields and church potlucks. On Dad's quiet stories of Vietnam and Mom's apple pies that hid the bruises from factory layoffs. They weren't monsters. Not really. Just scared folks clinging to a world that was slipping away. And he was the easiest scapegoat. As night fell, the house creaked under the weight of arriving relatives. Aunts with Tupperware casseroles, uncles with coolers of Bud Light, cousins chasing fireflies in the yard. Christian retreated to the attic. His old domain from teenage years spent hiding comic books and stolen glances at the neighbor boy mowing lawns shirtless. The space was a time capsule, dusty boxes of Dad's war memorabilia, Mom's forgotten quilts, and his own relics, a faded poster of the Columbus Blue Jackets, a stack of dog-eared Stephen King novels. He sank onto the creaky floorboards, pulling out his phone to text Roger. Made it home. Family's a minefield. Miss you already. Roger's reply buzzed almost instantly. Hang in there, babe. Remember that time we outran the cops in the alley? You've got this. Call me later? A smile cracked Christian's facade, warm as contraband whiskey. Roger Ellis, 25, barista by day, aspiring graphic novelist by night, with ink-stained fingers and eyes like smoked whiskey. They'd met at a campus pride rally, sparks flying over shared rants about Reagan-era AIDS policies and the hypocrisy of small-town pastors. 6 months in, and Roger felt like home, the kind without shotguns or side-eyes. But the attic held no peace tonight. Rifling through a box for a forgotten charger, Christian's fingers brushed something sharp. A loose floorboard, warped from years of Midwest humidity. Curiosity overrode caution. He pried it up, revealing a shallow nook stuffed with yellowed envelopes and faded photos. His breath caught. One envelope, sealed with Dad's meticulous script, bore his name, "For Christian, when you're ready." Heart pounding, he tore it open, the paper crackling like gunfire in the silence. The letter inside was brief, Dad's handwriting steady despite the illness that had claimed him. Son, if you're reading this, I've gone on without saying what needed saying. Your mom and Ray, they don't understand. They never did, not even when I was your age, hiding who I was in foxholes and factory lines. I loved a man once, Inam, before the world beat it out of me. I chose silence to keep this family whole, but don't you make my mistake. Be brave, Christian. Be you. Love as fierce as the Ohio River runs. Your old man always dead. The words blurred through hot tears, a dam breaking after years of drought. Dad? Gay? The man who'd taught him to bait hooks and fix carburetors, who'd clapped him on the back after his first heartbreak. Over a girl, he'd lied. It rewrote everything, this hidden truth buried like contraband. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. Lila, calling him down for cake. Christian shoved the letter into his pocket, the weight of it heavier than any duffel. Tomorrow's wedding would be a farce now, a stage for lies he could no longer stomach. As he descended, the farmhouse lights flickered like dying stars, and for the first time, Christian felt the stirrings of a storm, not the kind with shotguns, but one that might finally wash the Harper secrets clean. Dawn broke over Willow Creek like a reluctant confession, painting the sky in bruised purples and hesitant golds as Christian lay awake in the guest room cot, the letter burning a hole in his jeans pocket. Sleep had been a cruel tease, fragments of dreams weaving Dad's voice with Roger's laugh, only to shatter into replays of Uncle Ray's sneer. The house stirred early, clatter of coffee pots, the sizzle of bacon as Mom rallied the troops for Lila's big day. Christian dragged himself downstairs, the scent of frying eggs a siren call to normalcy he couldn't answer. "Morning, sleepyhead," Lila chirped from the counter, her veil perched like a crown on her curlers. "You look like hell." Nerves about the toast. She meant his best man speech, the one he'd scripted with jokes about pigtails and playground promises, careful to sidestep anything that might embarrass the family. Now, tasted like ash. He mumbled a yes, pouring black coffee that scalded his tongue, a fitting penance. Mom bustled in, apron tied tight as her lips, shooting him a glance that lingered too long. "Christian, honey, we need to talk about everything. After the ceremony. Family first, right?" Her voice softened at the edges, a rare crack in the armor, but he saw the calculation there, the plea to keep quiet, to let Lila's joy eclipse his storm. He nodded, throat tight, because what could he say? "Mom, Dad was like me. He loved a man." The words stuck like burrs. Instead, he escaped to the barn, where the wedding tent flapped half-erected in the breeze, white canvas billowing like surrender flags. There, amid hay bales and rusted tools, he pulled out his phone again. "Found something last night. Dad's letter. Huge. Coming to the wedding? Need you here." Roger's response. "On my way. Be there by noon. Hold the line, Harper." Noon couldn't come fast enough. The morning blurred into a frenzy of floral arrangements and folding chairs, aunts gossiping about that nice boy Lila snagged, while uncles cracked beers before 10. Christian hammered stakes into the soft earth, each swing a release, thwack for Mom's denial, thwack for Ray's rage, thwack for the years he'd spent apologizing for existing. Sweat soaked his shirt, the October chill no match for the fire in his veins. Dad's words looped in his mind. Be brave. Brave like what? Storming the aisle with a rainbow flag? Or slipping away before the vows? Letter in hand, chasing a life where love didn't come with footnotes? A truck rumbled up the drive. Roger's beat-up Ford Ranger, Ohio plates caked in campus mud. He hopped out, all easy grace in faded Levi's and a flannel that hugged his broad shoulders, dark hair tousled from the 3-hour haul from Columbus. "Hey, stranger," Roger grinned, pulling Christian into a hug that smelled of diner coffee and safety. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that embrace, strong arms erasing the night's ghosts. They pulled apart too soon, aware of the eyes, cousins peeking from the porch, whispers like dry leaves rustling. "You okay?" Roger murmured, thumb brushing Christian's jaw, a secret touch that sent shivers racing. "Not really. Show you later." The barn became their confessional, hayloft ladder creaking under their weight as they climbed to the dusty beams overlooking the yard. Up there, away from prying, Christian spilled it all, the letter, the shotgun echo, the suffocating weight of family first. Roger listened, legs dangling, his artist's hands sketching invisible patterns on Christian's knee. "Jesus, Chris. Your dad. That's huge. He saw you, even if he couldn't say it." His voice was low, laced with that Brooklyn edge from summers visiting his grandma raw, unfiltered, the kind that cut through bullshit. And this place is poison. You don't owe them your soul. Christian leaned into him, foreheads touching, the loft a fragile bubble. I know. But Lila, she's the only one who's ever had my back. And you, God, Roger, if they knew about us. The kiss that followed was desperate, tasting of salt and stolen time, Roger's fingers threading through Christian's hair as if to anchor him against the tide. But bubbles burst. A shout from below, Uncle Ray, bellowing for that queer kid's boyfriend to get his ass down and haul chairs. The word landed like a slap. Ray's face purpled with beer and bigotry as he jabbed a finger at the barn door. Roger stiffened, but Christian squeezed his hand, brave, and they descended, shoulders squared. The setup dragged on under Ray's glowering supervision, his mutters about city influences drawing chuckles from the menfolk. Lila intervened with forced cheer, looping arms with both of them. Ignore him, boys. He's just jealous, 'cause his own life's drier than this field. But the damage festered. By the time guests arrived, 200 strong from 3 counties, in pastel dresses and be-on-the-lookout ties, the air hummed with tension. Christian stood at the altar setup, fiddling with his tie, the letter a talisman against the rising panic. Roger hovered at the edges, charming ants with tales of urban adventures, but his eyes never left Christian, a lifeline in the crowd. The ceremony unfolded like a well-rehearsed play, Lila radiant in lace, her groom Tom beaming under the tent's canopy, Pastor Hale droning about holy unions and the natural order. Christian's speech was a tightrope walk, witty barbs about sibling rivalries, a nod to Dad's unbreakable spirit, but beneath it, his pulse thundered. As applause rippled, he caught Mom's eye, her smile brittle as she dabbed at tears. Reception kicked off with a polka band and barbecue ribs, the yard alive with laughter and line dances. Roger pulled him onto the makeshift floor for a slow sway to an old Patsy Cline tune. Bodies close under the string lights, pretending it was just bros horsing around. You're killing it, Roger whispered, breath warm against his ear. Proud of you. For a moment, Christian believed it, until Ray lumbered over, beer sloshing, clapping a meaty hand on his shoulder hard enough to bruise. Enjoying the show, nephew? Just remember, this family's got limits. Push 'em, and you'll find out how quick we draw the line. The threat hung like smoke as Ray melted back into the crowd, but it ignited something feral in Christian. He excused himself, weaving through tipsy relatives to the farmhouse porch, where the night air cooled his flush. The letter, show them. The idea bloomed reckless, born of whiskey shots and withheld truths. He slipped inside to the study, Dad's old den with its oak desk and faded eagle poster, and rummaged for paper. His own words poured out, raw and unedited. A letter to the family, quoting Dad's, laying bare the hypocrisy. He loved like I do. We Harpers aren't liars, we're survivors. Folding it with the original, he sealed it in an envelope addressed to Mom, pulse racing. Back outside, he handed it to Lila amid the cake-cutting cheers. Read this later. With everyone. Please. Her brow furrowed, but she nodded, tucking it into her bouquet. As the night deepened, Roger found him by the fire pit, stars wheeling overhead like indifferent witnesses. They sat shoulder to shoulder, sharing a pilfered flask, the party's din fading to a hum. Whatever happens tomorrow, Roger said, voice steady, I'm with you. All the way. Christian turned, cupping his face, the kiss this time slow and sure, a vow under the Ohio moon. But as embers crackled, a shadow loomed, Mom, envelope in hand, face ashen. She'd opened it early. Christian, what have you done? Mom's whisper cut through the fire's crackle like a blade through silk, her fingers trembling around the envelope as if it might combust. Christian's stomach plummeted, the flask slipping from his grip to thud in the dirt. Roger tensed beside him, hand instinctively finding Christian's under the log they sat on. A silent "I've got you." But Mom's eyes, usually so guarded, were wide with something raw, not just anger, but fracture. Inside. Now, she turned on her heel, the screen door banging like a gavel. The party swirled on oblivious, Lila twirling with Tom, uncles belting out Sweet Caroline. But Christian felt exposed, every laugh a spotlight on his deceit. Go, Roger urged softly. I'll be right here. Yell if you need backup. Christian nodded, steeling himself as he followed her into the study's lamplight, the air thick with the ghosts of pipe smoke and unspoken grief. She shut the door with a click that echoed finality, leaning against it as if to bar the world. The letter lay open on Dad's desk, pages splayed like wounded birds. How? Where did you find this? Her voice was a thread, fraying. Christian swallowed, the words tumbling out in a rush, the attic floorboard, the hidden nook, the script he'd recognize anywhere. Mom's face crumpled, not in fury, but defeat. She sank into Dad's leather chair, the one that still held the indentation of his frame. He wrote it months before the end. I found it in his things after the funeral. Ray, he said to burn it. Said it would destroy us all, make us look weak in town. Right? Of course. The brother who'd stepped in as patriarch, wielding control like a cudgel. Christian's blood boiled. Weak, Mom? Dad was braver than any of us. He lived a lie for you, for us, and you're protecting Ray's poison over that. She flinched, tears carving tracks through her makeup. You think it's easy? This town. Christian, it's chewed up better men than your father. The whispers after his discharge, the jobs that dried up. I loved him, God help me, but I chose the life we had. The farm, the kids, the church suppers. And now you, her gaze lifted, piercing. You're throwing it all away for what? That boy out there? The one with the fancy talk and no roots. It was betrayal wrapped in concern, the kind only mothers wield so deftly. Christian paced, the rug fraying under his boots. For truth, Mom. For not hating myself every damn day. Dad said be brave. I can't do that hiding anymore. Silence stretched, broken only by the distant band, until she whispered, he wasn't always hiding. There were nights. After you were born, he'd stare at the river, lost. I knew, deep down. But admitting it, it'd unravel everything. The door burst open then. Ray, red-faced and reeking of bourbon, Lila trailing wide-eyed behind. What the hell's this I hear about some fairy tale from the grave? He'd snatched the letter from the kitchen, Lila confessing in a panic. Mom surged up, but Ray waved her off, thrusting the pages at Christian like evidence in a trial. Your daddy was a patriot, boy. Fought for this country, built this home. He didn't prance around with slant-eyed boys in jungles. That's your delusion, straight from those liberal professors. The venom dripped, casual as corn syrup, but it masked the fear, Ray's own closet, perhaps, or just the terror of change in a town where the factory whistle still dictated manhood. Christian snatched the letter back, voice steady for the first time. Read it, Uncle. All of it. I loved a man once. In Nam. Dad's words. Not mine. He was like me, gay. Hidden. Broken by folks like you who think silence is strength. Ray's laugh was a wheeze, but his eyes darted to Mom, to Lila, seeking allies. Bullshit forgery. He was delirious at the end. Pain meds talkin'. Lila stepped forward, bouquet wilting in her grip. Uncle Ray. Stop. Chris wouldn't lie about Dad. Her voice quavered, the bride's glow dimmed by doubt. Ray rounded on her. You stay out of it, girl. This is men's business. But the crack was there. Lila's flinch, Mom's averted gaze. Christian pressed, heart hammering. You burned his truth to keep your power, Ray. But it's out now. The whole family's gonna know. A standoff. The study a pressure cooker. Ray's bulk blocking the door. Mom clutching the desk like driftwood. Lila a bridge between worlds. Outside, the party peaked. Fireworks popping in premature celebration. Ironic bursts lighting the windows like accusations. Ray lunged then, not with fists but words. A torrent of slurs and scripture that painted Christian as the devil's own. You're poison. Boy, tainting his memory. Chasing skirts, no. Chasing dicks like some pervert. The betrayal stung deepest from the man who'd bounced him on knees. Taught him to drive stick on backroads. Christian shoved him back. A spark of violence igniting. Get out. You're the liar here. Fists flew. Ray's haymaker grazing his jaw. Christian's counter landing square on ribs. Mom screamed. Lila yanked them apart. The scuffle spilling into the hall where relatives gawked like vultures. Roger appeared like a thunderhead, shouldering through the crowd, pulling Christian clear with a firm grip. Enough! His voice boomed. New York steel in Ohio hay. Ray staggered, clutching his side. But the damage was done. The party's facade shattered, whispers exploding into shouts. In the chaos, Lila grabbed the mic from the bandstand, voice amplified over the din. Everyone listen. This isn't about cake or dances. It's about family. About Dad. She held up the letters, trembling but unbowed. He loved Christian, loved us enough to write this. And if you can't handle that, then you're not welcome here. Gasps rippled, aunts crossing themselves, uncles muttering about drama. But a few nods, cousin Mikey, who'd come out quietly last year. Aunt Jo, who'd lost a brother to AIDS in the 80s. The divide cracked open, raw as a fresh wound. Ray stormed out, truck tires spinning gravel into the night. Mom collapsing into a chair with a sob. Christian, bruised and breathless, met Roger's eyes across the yard, an anchor in the tempest. As the crowd dispersed in uneasy clusters, Christian led Roger to the riverbank, the Ohio's dark waters murmuring secrets under the moon. They sat on a weathered dock, feet dangling, the wedding's detritus fading behind. I thought it'd break me, Christian admitted, tracing the swelling on his jaw. Roger tilted his chin up gently, inspecting the damage with fingers that healed more than they hurt. Nah. Forged you. And look, Lila's got your back. That's something. They talked then, hours bleeding into dawn. Roger's own scars, coming out to a cop dad who patrolled Brooklyn beats. Dreams of a life beyond diplomas, maybe a loft in Chicago where graphic novels sold and love wasn't a felony. The kiss that followed was a bomb. Slow and deep, the rivers lap a rhythm to their breaths. But betrayal's shadow lingered. Ray's exile a temporary win. Mom's silence a ticking bomb. As first light gilded the water, Christian whispered, "What now?" Roger smiled. Fierce. "We build. You, me, whatever truth we claim." Yet dawn brought no easy peace. A knock at the farmhouse door. Pastor Hale, Bible in hand, summoned by Ray's frantic call from a barstool. The boys possessed. Ray had slurred over the line, rallying the faithful. Hale arrived with deacons in tow, faces stern as Old Testament judges, demanding a family intervention. Mom, hollow-eyed over coffee, wavered, faith her crutch since Dad's death. Christian, just hear him out. For unity, but unity felt like chains. Roger, sensing the siege, texted, "Leaving soon? My truck's yours." Temptation warred with duty. Fleeing meant abandoning Lila to the fallout, Mom to isolation. Instead, Christian faced the parlor showdown, Roger at his side like a sentinel. Hale's sermon was a barrage Sodom, fire, choosing flesh over spirit, but Christian countered with Dad's letter, voice rising. "God made him this way. Made me. Your hellfire doesn't scare that truth away." The clash peaked when Mikey stood, outing himself fully. "I'm gay too, Pastor. And Dad would have loved me same as Chris." The room fractured, deacons filing out in disgust, but Mom reaching for Christian's hand, tentative. I need time." It wasn't absolution, but a crack in the wall. As Hale retreated, defeated, Roger pulled Christian outside, the morning mist cloaking their escape to the fields. There, amid goldenrod and regret, they made love for the first time on Harper soil, urgent, reverent, bodies mapping forgiveness under the vast American sky. Betrayal had scarred, but in Roger's arms, Christian glimpsed redemption. Not erasure, but embrace. The weeks following the wedding blurred into a fragile truce. Willow Creek's grapevine twisting the Harper scandal into legend. Old Man Harper's ghost came out of the closet. Ray vanished into Dayton's dive bars. His absence a hollow victory laced with guilt. Christian caught himself scanning the driveway for that battered Chevy, half hoping for reconciliation, half dreading the storm. Mom tiptoed around silences, burning dinners and folding laundry with mechanical precision. But small gestures emerged. A new flannel shirt in his size, left on the porch like contraband peace offerings. Lila, back from honeymoon glow, became the mediator. Her apartment in town a neutral ground for stilted family dinners where forks scraped plates louder than words. And Roger, Roger was the constant, commuting weekends with sketchpads and takeout from Columbus dives, turning the attic into a studio of half-finished murals. Ohio rivers flowing into urban skylines, symbols of bridges unburnt. But peace is a liar in small towns, and betrayal festers like untreated wounds. Started with a letter, not Dad's, but one from Pastor Hale's congregation, slipped under the farmhouse door like a serpent in Eden. Repent, or be shunned. Your father's sins don't excuse yours. Signed by half the pews, including Aunt Joe's shaky hand. Mom found it first, crumpling it in the sink as tears splashed the porcelain. Christian walked in on the aftermath, her shoulders shaking. "They were our friends," she choked. 40 years of potlucks. And now, he held her then, the first unforced embrace in memory, her sobs soaking his shirt. "Not all of them, Mom." Lila's fighting back, started a support group at the library. "And you read Dad's letter. That's braver than any sermon." She pulled away, eyes searching his. I was wrong. About a lot. But Ray. He's family. Blood calls to blood. The warning was clear. Choose sides, or lose them all. Roger sensed the shift during his next visit. The air heavy as they drove to the river for a picnic. Blanket, craft beers, and a portable speaker crooning Springsteen. She's thawing, Christian said, skipping stones across the water, each plink a small triumph. Roger lounged against an oak, sketching Christian's profile with quick, loving strokes. Yeah, but Ray's the wild card. Guy like that doesn't fade, he explodes. Prophetic words. That night, as thunder rumbled distant, headlights pierced the farm's darkness. Ray's truck, weaving like a drunk ghost. He pounded the door at midnight, reeking of regret and rye. Mom answered, Christian hovering in the hall, Roger a shadow on the stairs. Let me in, Ellen. We gotta fix this. His voice slurred, but eyes were clear, desperate, cornered. Inside, over black coffee, the reckoning unfolded. Ray admitting he'd torched Dad's other letters, hidden ones from Nam that hinted at more than memory. I did it for the family, he growled, but cracks showed. His own discharge under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, a lover lost to jungle fever. Your pa and I, we talked, once. He confessed. I called him weak, told him to man up. Never forgave myself when the cancer hit. The revelation hung, a mirror to their sins. Christian's anger ebbed to pity. Ray, the bully, was just a man broken by the same machine. You could have been his brother in this, Christian said softly. Instead, you buried us all. Ray's nod was a surrender, tears carving channels in whiskey lines. Dawn found them talking, really talking for the first time, war stories, factory blues, the quiet terror of loving against the grain. Roger mediated with quiet wisdom, his outsider's ear catching nuances no Harper could. By morning, packed, Ray to rehab, Mom to counseling, Christian to bridge building. Hope flickered, fragile as fireflies, but climax brews in calm's wake. 2 months on, Roger got the call. A gallery in Chicago scouting his portfolio, a residency that meant uprooting for a year. It's huge, Chris, he said over FaceTime, city lights haloing his excitement. But us, Christian's world tilted, the farm suddenly vast and empty. Go. This is your shot. Selfless words masking terror of distance, of reverting to isolation. Roger arrived that weekend, the decision hanging like storm clouds. They fought, ugly and American, accusations of selfishness, fears of abandonment. You're choosing ink over me, Christian yelled, hurling a sketchpad across the attic. Roger fired back. And you're chaining yourself to ghosts. When do we live? Not just survive. The betrayal cut deep, not infidelity, but divergence. The romance's first real fracture. They made up in the hayloft, bodies colliding in fury and forgiveness, but the seed of doubt took root. Winter clamped down, snow blanketing Willow Creek in white lies. Christian threw himself into community college classes, literature, psych, dreaming of transferring to state, but Roger's texts grew sparse amid deadlines. Ray sobered up, awkward apologies over diner pancakes, even attending Lila's library group incognito. Mom hung a pride sticker on the fridge, small rebellion. Yet the letter's shadow loomed. Digging deeper, Christian uncovered Dad's hidden cache. Photos from Vietnam. A soldier's arm around a young Tom Harper. Smiles defiant. One snapshot showed Ray in the background, gaze averted, jealousy, shame, confronting him unearthed more. Ray had been the man Dad loved, their bond severed by war's horrors and society's blade. I pushed him away, Ray confessed, voice gravel. Told him it was sin. When he came home, married your mom. I hated him for choosing easy. The truth shattered anew. Incestuous echoes, not in blood but secrecy, turning family into a labyrinth of what-ifs. As spring thawed the fields, Roger's residency loomed. Their last night, under a canopy of dogwoods, Christian proposed a compromise. Long distance, visits, a future mapped together. I love you, Roger murmured, tracing constellations on his skin. More than canvases or cities, the lovemaking was a liturgy, slow and sacred, sealing promises against the pull of paths diverging. But betrayal's final twist came via mail, a package from Ray, addressed to Christian. Inside, not destruction, but restitution, Dad's dog tags, engraved with a hidden date, the day he and Ray parted. A note, he chose life over us. Choose yours. Tears fell as Christian clasped them, Roger's flight to O'Hare ticking like a bomb. Summer scorched the earth. Roger thriving in Chicago's buzz, texts of gallery openings, sketches of skyline lovers. Christian visited, the Windy City a whirlwind of freedom. Hand-holding on Michigan Avenue, nights in lofts where art pulsed like heartbeats. Back home, progress bloomed. Mom marching in Columbus pride, Lila expecting, Ray volunteering at the VA. Yet distance gnawed, a drunken voicemail from Roger. Missing you too much, babe. This city's cold without your fire. Ignited jealousy over faceless admirers. The climax erupted during a harvest moon visit. Roger, exhausted from a show, snapped at Christian's clinginess. I can't breathe. You're suffocating me with your small-town guilt. Words like shrapnel, drawing blood. Christian fled to the river, stone in hand, skipping it far, symbol of release or loss. Alone, he wept for Dad's courage, for Roger's light dimming in his shadow. Dawn brought clarity. Betrayal wasn't abandonment, but growth's price. He drove back, found Roger packing. Don't go thinking we're done, Christian said, voice steel. Fight for us, or let go clean. Roger's eyes, weary but warm, met his. I'm fighting. But you gotta meet me halfway, transfer to Art Institute. Build with me. The kiss was a crossroads, salty with possibility. Autumn returned to Willow Creek like a prodigal, leaves turning in fiery penance as Christian weighed Roger's gauntlet. Uproot the roots, chase the horizon. The farm, once prison, now hummed with tentative harmony. Mom's garden flourishing with heirloom tomatoes, Ray's truck parked steady, Lila's baby bump a beacon of continuity. Family dinners evolved from minefields to maps, stories of Dad's hidden heart unfolding like petals. His quiet donations to local AIDS funds, disguised as charity. The nom letters Ray had salvaged, transcribed in shaky script as amends. He'd want you happy, son. Ray grunted one night over venison stew. His eyes, once thunder, now rain-softened. Christian nodded, the dog tags cool against his chest, a talisman of inherited bravery. But happiness? It beckoned from Chicago. Roger's voice crackling over calls. Saw this mural today. Reminded me of your eyes. Come see. Temptation warred with tether. Leaving meant abandoning the mending, yet staying chained the romance to rust. The decision crystallized in crisis. A nor'easter barreled through mid-October, winds howling like banshees, flooding the lowlands and stranding the farm in isolation. Power flickered out, candles guttering in the parlor as the Harpers huddled. Mom reading aloud from Dad's letters, Lila strumming guitar, Ray whittling crib toys with uncharacteristic gentleness. Christian's phone died mid-text to Roger, the storm a metaphor for inner churn. In the blackout's intimacy, truth spilled. Mom admitting her own regrets, marrying young, silencing doubts for stability. Ray confessing a post-war affair with a trucker, ended in shame. We all hid. Chris, Mom said, voice luminous in firelight. But you're the light we dimmed. Go find your blaze. Dawn broke clear, waters receding, and with it, resolve. Applications fired off to Chicago's Art Institute, dreams of graphic design bridging his love for stories and Roger's world. Roger's reaction, when the acceptance came, was a whoop echoing across state lines. Pack your shit, Harper. We're doing this. The move was a whirlwind, U-Haul loaded with attic relics. Tearful goodbyes under a harvest moon. Mom pressed apple pie into his hands, eyes bright. Right often. And bring that boy home for Thanksgiving. Ray clapped his shoulder. Gruff. Proud of you, kid. Don't let the city chew you up. Lila hugged fierce, whispering, you're my hero. Always were. As the truck rumbled north, Christian glanced back, the farmhouse shrinking to a speck. Not abandonment but evolution. Chicago swallowed him whole. Skyscrapers piercing clouds, L trains rumbling like heartbeats. Roger's loft a chaotic nest of easels and takeout boxes. Their first night reunited was a homecoming, bodies rediscovering rhythms, laughter chasing shadows. Missed this, Roger murmured, tracing the dog tags chain. Missed you. Life unfurled in vibrant strokes. Classes by day, where Christian devoured narratives of queer icons, from Whitman to Baldwin, fueling late-night collaborations with Roger, their graphic novel taking shape, a tale of hidden loves in heartland shadows, cathartic as confession. Betrayal's echoes faded, transmuted into art. Ray sent postcards from AA meetings, Mom FaceTimed nursery updates. Yet conflict lingered, subtle as city smog, the grind of tuition loans, Roger's deadlines clashing with Christian's insecurities. A gallery fight erupted over a flirtatious curator. It's nothing, Roger insisted, but Christian's trust, scarred by family lies, recoiled. Nothing until it's everything. Like Dad chose silence over truth. The argument escalated, doors slamming, nights on the couch. Roger pursued, cornering him in the kitchen. I'm not your uncle, Chris. I'm not running. But you gotta trust us. This vulnerability cracked the dam. They talked till dawn, weaving insecurities into stronger threads. Climax crested at the novel's launch, a bustling Wicker Park event where pages of their shared soul hit shelves. Nerves jangled as Christian read an excerpt, Dad's letter fictionalized into verse, voice steady amid hipster murmurs. Applause swelled, but afterward, a heckler from Ohio roots sneered, Heartland trash, your pod disowned this fairy tale, the barb hooked deep, visions of shotguns flashing. Roger shielded him, retorting with artist's fire, he'd sign every copy. Read the dedication. But alone later, in the loft's hush, Christian unraveled. What if they're right? What if I shatter everything I touch? Roger knelt, eyes fierce. You shatter lies, babe. That's power, not curse. The lovemaking that followed was reclamation, tender, transformative, bodies affirming what words couldn't. Winter yielded to spring, the novel's buzz drawing reviews. A poignant American odyssey of love's quiet rebellions. Royalties trickled. Enough for a down payment on a studio apartment. There's ringed with skyline views. Visits home wove worlds. Roger charming mom over pie. Ray critiquing sketches with gruff praise. Lila's son named Harper Elias, gumming tiny fists at their knees. Betrayal's ghosts exorcised. Replaced by humanism's grace. Forgiveness not erasure, but expansion. One humid July eve, under Chicago's fireworks, echoing that shotgun long ago, Roger proposed, not with diamonds but a custom sketch. Two men by the Ohio, hands linked, rivers merging. Marry me? Let's make our own family. Tears blurred the page. Christian's yes was a vow, echoing Dad's unspoken, be brave. Love fierce. Years folded like well-worn pages. The Harpers grew, wedding in a willow-shaded yard, baby adopted from city foster shadows, novels spawning sequels of resilience. Willow Creek softened, pride flags fluttering beside cornstalks, Ray's VA talks inspiring closets cracked open. Mom passed gently, her eulogy Christians. She chose love, late but true. In the end, not tragedy but testament. A gay son's journey from mockery to mending, letters shatter birthing wholeness. Under American stars, vast and unjudging, Christian and Roger walked hand in hand, the river of their lives running deep, unbroken.